Thank you very much, Sarah, and it's lovely to be here this evening. It's a great opportunity. I love an opportunity to talk about our label and how fabulous it is. So here we go. As Sarah said, my name's Francesca Lipscombe. I am the General Manager of the New Zealand Eco-Labelling Trust. We're a not-for-profit organisation that has a contract with the Ministry for the Environment to administer their eco-label, Environmental Choice New Zealand. So it is owned by the Ministry for the Environment, but administered independently. Now, a couple of things really struck me when I read this latest Better Futures report. The first thing is that New Zealand consumers have a really good understanding of the fact that their behaviours and actions have an impact. So have an impact on the environment, have an impact on their health and well-being, and on the health and well-being of their families as well. And I think this is a fantastic positive outcome. And then also, the fact that 80% of New Zealanders have ditched their plastic bags and are using reusable ones really tells me that, by and large, we care. New Zealand consumers do care. And I guess the question is, we do care. How do we know if we're doing the right thing or not? And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. In preparation for this presentation, I went for a walk down the cleaning products aisle of my local supermarket, and I took a note of all of the claims that were being made on cleaning products. And this is one aisle in one supermarket. There are products claiming to be better and safer. There are plant-based products and natural ingredient products. Some are free of ammonia or fragrances. There are pictures of dolphins and bunny rabbits, and the colour green is used everywhere. And I think that if we're really being honest with ourselves, we all know that these words and symbols are merely marketing tools to try and get us to change our behaviour. Most of the claims are probably true. They're not necessarily lies. But the question is, are they really helpful, or is it just a whole lot of greenwash? Greenwashing is when a company misleads its customers about the environmental attributes of its products, and it's rampant. In 2010, US company TerraChoice surveyed over 4,000 green products in the American market and found that over 95% of them were committing at least one of these the 7 sins of greenwashing. And as I said, greenwashing isn't necessarily lying about the attributes of your product, and many of these claims wouldn't even breach the Fair Trading Act. However, they're just not that helpful to us or the environment. Sometimes claims are just too narrow. Paper is not necessarily environmentally preferable just because the raw material came from a sustainably harvested forest. There are other important environmental issues like the water and energy use and the greenhouse gas emissions that come from the manufacturing process that need to be considered as well. And then some claims are just vague, and my favourite, which is a hot topic at the moment, is natural. There are many, many naturally derived ingredients that are not just undesirable but actually poisonous. Formaldehyde and arsenic, for example. So claiming your product is natural is maybe not all that helpful to your customers. Now, this is a quote taken from a International Organisation for Standardisation handbook, so ISO handbook, on environmental labels and declarations. And it basically says that, luckily for us consumers, there are internationally agreed standards to protect us from greenwashing. And the standards they're referring to are the ISO 14020 set of standards. So what is an eco-label? An eco-label identifies products and services that are proven to be environmentally preferable. So in contrast to a green symbol or claim made by the manufacturer themselves, the most credible labels are awarded by independent third-party organisations for products and services that have met environmental leadership criteria. And this is where I get to talk about my label, Environmental Choice. As I said earlier in the presentation, this label is owned by the Ministry for the Environment. It complies with the rules of ISO 14024. The label was established in 1992, and there are a wide range of products and services on the market in New Zealand today that carry the label. ISO 14024 requires us to, we're required to meet a lot of criteria in order to comply with those requirements. So I'll just talk you through some of those which are of particular interest. Firstly, we take a life cycle approach. So when we develop a new criteria document, or a specification as we call them, we look at the product category from start to finish. So we are interested in where those raw materials are coming from. We're interested in the manufacturing process and what happens in terms of hazardous substances, emissions to air and water, energy use, etc. We look at the packaging the product comes in, the primary and secondary packaging, and the information that's provided on that packaging to the end consumer as well. And of course, we are also really concerned about product stewardship and what happens to that product at the end of its useful life. The environmental choice label identifies environmental preferability. So if you see a product that has that label on it, you can be assured that that is a best practice environmentally across its life cycle. And lastly, the label encourages continuous improvement. So we review our criteria documents every sort of 5 to 7 years, and at that time we have another look at the industry, see if we can make things more stringent, and if we can, we do. And what happens then is that industry moves with us, and we see a shift in an industry as a whole. Because very often it's not just licensees that make that shift, but if those top performers are continually improving, then the rest of the market does move with them. I think perhaps the person who could best tell you about what value the environmental choice label has to an organisation is one of our licensees. So I've just got a very short clip of one of my licensees, Kim Calvert from Cotton Soft, talking about the label.
We chose environmental choice because it helps our customers and consumers understand that our products and manufacturing processes are environmentally preferable. Having an independently verified third-party endorsed label also helps you to differentiate yourself from your competitors, and that's what an eco-label helps you to do.
Now, there's been a lot of talk today about plastic, so I think that I should have a word to you about plastic as well. I am astounded that 72% of New Zealanders are concerned about the amount of plastic build-up in our environment. That's more than those who are concerned about the cost of living and rates of suicide, which is quite incredible. We have a specification that covers recycled plastic products. We developed the spec in 2012, and at that time, recycled content was a measure of best practice. But of course, things have changed, and the specification is currently under review. So there's an example of our continuous improvement. Given the global trend to move away from single-use plastic products and the rise of plastic pollution, we're proposing to change the specification to prevent single-use plastics from being able to be labelled, and instead to promote durability. So we're still talking about having a plastic specification, but we'll be rewarding those that produce plastic products that can be used over and over again. And that brings me to compostable packaging. There's a lot of confusion around compostable packaging in New Zealand. Consumers don't know what to do with compostable products, and actually many composting processors are not sure whether the products that they're receiving will in fact break down fully in their facilities. So we thought, wow, here's an opportunity for us. Maybe there's a way that an environmental choice label could clear up some of that confusion around compostable products. But we came to the conclusion that any product that is designed and manufactured to be used once is inherently not environmentally preferable. So we decided perhaps the composting space wasn't for us, and we won't go ahead with that. So So just very quickly, a couple of international trends. You now know that we believe significant environmental improvement is likely to come from a move away from single-use and disposable items. And this is backed up by some of these overseas trends. In Switzerland, Germany, the UK and US, reusable takeaway container systems are being introduced, for example. So sort of like the boomerang bags, but for reusable lunch containers. And in on a slightly different note, but nonetheless related, just last week the European Commission adopted the Eco-Design Package, which has been set up to prolong the life of household appliances like televisions and dishwashers, etc. And the idea there is that products will be designed and manufactured to be repaired throughout their life rather than being replaced. And this is something that there's a lot of talk about in Europe whenever I'm there. But that's it for today. I just wanted to finish off with a quote which I think sums this sustainable consumption stuff up really nicely. Fashion designer Vivienne Westwood says, "Buy less, choose well, and make it last." Thank you.